They came without warning. No declaration, no signs, no massive ships in the sky like in the movies, no grand speeches, just silence. Then systems crashed, power grids died, satellites went blind. The internet blinked out like someone had unplugged the world. For 7 hours, humanity was forced back into the dark, and then they landed. They called themselves the Vari, towering beings made of smooth, dark, metal-like skin that shimmered like wet stone. Beautiful if you could ignore the eyes, hollow, white orbs that blinked sideways and stared through you like you were less than dirt. They didn't speak our languages. They didn't need to. Every time they opened their mouths, people screamed, some from pain, others from madness. Cities fell in days. The Vari didn't fight like we did. No bullets, no bombs. They used sound, pressure, and control. Soldiers collapsed in their helmets. Generals bled from the ears. Nuclear silos opened, then shut again, and no one ever figured out how they got into the systems. It wasn't a war. It was an announcement. We weren't the dominant species anymore. My name's Mara Quinn, and I was no one. A warehouse worker in Kansas, barely making rent, addicted to caffeine and too broke for health insurance. But the day the Vari came, I survived. Not because I fought. I wasn't brave. I wasn't strong. I wasn't smart either. I was just angry. They came to my town on day 12 of the occupation. Our people were already building obedience towers for them. Huge spiraling constructs that made this awful humming sound, like your skull was vibrating from the inside. We were told to keep working, no resistance, no questions, but when the Vari dragged out my little brother Eli and called him Anomaly, I lost it. See, Eli wasn't dangerous. He was 10, autistic, didn't talk much. He flapped his hands and stared at lights too long. I guess that made him unstable to them. I watched as they scanned him with one of their damn rods and tossed him into a containment sphere like trash, and I snapped. I don't remember much of what I did. I had a crowbar. I was screaming. There were people watching, gasping, but not moving. I hit one of them, an Avari soldier. Not that it mattered. He didn't even flinch, just turned and grabbed me by the throat with those long, jointless fingers. But something happened when he touched me. The Vari soldier froze, I mean really froze, like a statue. His fingers trembled, his head tilted glitchy like a skipping video. Then his whole body cracked like porcelain under pressure, and he shattered, just fell apart in my hands. Everyone around me ran. I just stood there coughing, shaking, with bits of alien shell all over my clothes. Then I saw Eli. The sphere holding him had broken. He was free, just standing there, staring at me like I was a superhero. We didn't know it then, but that moment changed everything. The resistance reached out within days. Apparently there were other anomalies like me popping up all over the world. People who touched the Vari and killed them without meaning to. Some did it with a punch, some with a word, some just by staring too long. The Vari couldn't explain it. They tried to contain us, study us, control us. It didn't work, because what they didn't understand, what they couldn't ever understand, was that humans don't break like other species. We don't just submit. We snap, and when we do, we become something even the stars should fear. They came to conquer. Now they don't speak. Now they kneel. Now they worship. But the truth? We don't want their praise. We want revenge. Word spread fast. Not just through the human channels, still barely alive, but through whispers even the Vari couldn't trace. People started calling us the Burned. No one knew why. Maybe because when the Vari touched us, they broke apart like they'd been scorched from the inside. Maybe it was just human drama, but the name stuck. In the beginning, there were only a few dozen of us. By week 3, there were thousands. We didn't look special. We weren't trained or chosen. Most of us were nobodies. Janitors, bus drivers, street kids, baristas, inmates, people the world forgot. But when the Vari laid hands on us, they died. Not in a blaze of glory, not in a Marvel movie explosion. They just stopped, melted, cracked, imploded. As if touching raw human emotion was like injecting acid into their bloodstream. The resistance was nothing before we showed up. Pockets of angry people with stolen rifles and no plan. But now, Now we were something else entirely. We were hope. We were weapons. I ended up at one of the first safe zones, deep inside an old subway system in Nevada. The place smelled like piss and metal, and the air was so dry it felt like breathing sandpaper. But it was safe. No Vari had ever entered it. Not because they didn't know it existed, they did, they just couldn't handle it. Too many burned in one place. That's where I met Commander Rios, a former Navy SEAL turned rebel leader. He had a face like cracked leather, arms like tree trunks, and eyes that had seen too many people die. But when he looked at me, he didn't see a scared girl. He saw a weapon, a chance. "You're one of them," he said. No introduction. "The ones that burn." "I guess so," I muttered. I didn't feel powerful. I hadn't even touched another Vari since the first one. What if it was a fluke? He didn't ask if I was ready. He just handed me a file and said, "You're going to San Diego." Inside the file were images, scans, notes, photos of another girl, maybe 17, locked in a glowing cube at a Vari compound on the west coast. She was one of us, they said, except she hadn't burned a Vari. She spoke to one, said a single word, and it died screaming. Her name was Nova. "We need her," Rios said. "Whatever's happening to you, it's evolving fast." I didn't say no. The trip was hell. We rode in an armored caravan disguised as a food transport, weaving through back roads and dead cities. Vari drones zipped through the sky like silver ghosts. At every checkpoint, I had to sit in a lead-lined cage just in case my presence set off alarms. One of the guards puked the first time I looked at him for too long, said my aura felt like it was stabbing him in the spine. That's the thing no one talks about. Being one of the burned, it changes you. Your skin stays the same, your eyes don't glow, but something inside you warps. Your thoughts sharpen. Emotions stretch thin. You stop crying. You stop shaking. You start feeling like every cell in your body is filled with broken glass and fire, and you want to use it. We reached San Diego on a blood-orange sunset. The skyline was shattered. Vari spires had sprouted like alien tumors from the earth, dark, glistening, pulsing with energy. The compound was buried beneath what used to be a sports stadium. Now it was a fortress. The air around it vibrated like it hated you. That's where she was, Nova. A kid locked in a cage deep underground, surrounded by Vari scientists in their silken robes, scribbling on strange slabs that hovered in the air, watching her, studying her, fearing her. I saw her through a cracked camera feed once we hacked their perimeter. She was sitting cross-legged, calm, eyes closed, like she was meditating. And then she opened them and looked straight into the camera, straight at me. I swear to God, my vision went black for a second, not because of her power, because I knew deep in my bones she wasn't just one of us. She was more, and the Vari were trying to control her. We couldn't let that happen. We moved at night. That's the only time the Vari sensors pulsed low enough for our jammers to work. There were 7 of us in the strike team, 3 burned, 4 hardened resistance fighters. I didn't know their names at first. Names didn't matter when one wrong step could turn you into vapor. But by dawn, I'd bleed for every single one of them. The plan was simple, which usually meant it was suicidal. Nova was being held 200 feet underground beneath the Vari's West Coast nexus. That wasn't just a holding facility. It was their research core, their lab, their church. That's where they studied what they feared. That's where they dissected us. We couldn't walk in, but we could crawl. Tunnels beneath the stadium had once been sewer lines, maintenance shafts, escape routes. Now they were full of rot, broken metal, and echoes that didn't always belong to us. Sometimes the walls whispered back, Vari tech reaching where it didn't belong. It gave some of the soldiers nosebleeds. One guy, Flynn, started singing nursery rhymes without knowing it. But me. The deeper we went, the stronger I felt. Something about the air, something about being close to her. Nova wasn't like the rest of us. She wasn't just burned, she was amplified. That's what the files had said. She didn't need to touch a Vari. She didn't even need to scream. All she needed was intent, a thought, a word. And something alien inside her tore through reality. We found the chamber by following the pulse, that constant hum you feel in your teeth, in your skull. It grew sharper the closer we got, like a migraine blooming behind your eyes. The final door wasn't even locked. It was as if they wanted someone to find her. That should have been the first warning. Nova sat on a glass floor surrounded by hexagonal barriers of light. Her arms were covered in sigils, tattoos that glowed faintly like they were inked with starlight. She looked so still, so calm. Too calm for someone in captivity. "Nova," I whispered, stepping forward. Her eyes opened. Milky white, no pupils. But somehow she still looked right at me. "I dreamed you'd come," she said. And just like that, everything went to hell. The walls peeled open like petals. Vari poured in. Not just soldiers, but priests, commanders, and one of their elders. You could tell by the rings floating behind its head, rotating slowly like a planet's orbit. Its voice wasn't sound. It was pressure. Like gravity talking. "She cannot leave." The soldiers aimed their resonance spears. The resistance fighters moved to engage. And then the room pulsed once, twice, a heartbeat. Nova stood. "No," she said quietly. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. But every Vari in the room screamed. Their bodies cracked. Some staggered back, clutching their heads. Others bled from their mouths. Two collapsed, disintegrating into piles of oily dust. The elder held its ground, whispering something ancient and sharp, a sound that felt like needles sliding under your skin. Nova didn't flinch. She turned to me. "They're not gods," she said. "They're machines that forgot they were born." Then she raised her hand and spoke a word that didn't exist in any human language. The elder detonated, not like an explosion, more like a light being ripped out of it, sucked through a hole no one could see. The rings behind its head froze, then shattered like glass. The rest of it turned inside out and vanished. We didn't move for 5 seconds. No one could. Then the rest of us ran. Nova followed without speaking. The moment we exited the chamber, alarms started wailing in frequencies no human could understand, but the Vari did. We saw them from every corridor, every level, but they didn't charge us. They bowed. I swear to God, they dropped to their knees, heads bent low, weapons on the floor, like monks before a flame. Nova didn't look surprised. She just kept walking barefoot through their ranks like a queen in mourning. "Why are they doing that?" I asked her. She looked at me and smiled just a little. "Because they thought they were the ones studying us," she said. "They didn't realize we're the virus. The evolution. The end. The escape was supposed to be a victory, a rescue, a sign that humanity could still win something. But by the time we reached the desert outskirts, nothing about it felt like triumph. The sky was wrong. It pulsed, faint veins of red light crawling through the clouds, spreading across the horizon like a sickness. Static burned through every radio, every frequency. The Vari weren't chasing us. They weren't retreating either. They were watching. Rios's voice cracked through the comms. "Satellite feeds are dead. Power surges across every Vari stronghold on the planet. Whatever you did in there, Quinn, it woke them up." Nova didn't answer. She sat in the back of the transport, silent, staring at her palms like she'd never seen them before. Her skin glowed faintly, each pulse sinking with the trembling lights above. I didn't know what to say to her. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to bow. "You okay?" I asked finally. She looked at me with those pale eyes, and soft, tired. "Do you know what they were doing to me, Mara?" I shook my head. "They were trying to understand why humans make noise. Not sound, noise, chaos, emotion. They think we're broken because we don't think in unity, because we argue, hate, love, betray. But that's why we're dangerous. We don't follow order. We make it collapse." She said it so calmly it made my skin crawl. I realized then that Nova wasn't just another burned. She wasn't even fully human anymore. She was something that existed between species, an echo of the Vari's greatest mistake, curiosity. When we reached the safe zone, Commander Rios was waiting. He looked at Nova like a man staring at a bomb that was also a miracle. "We tracked Vari movements after your extraction," he said. "They're converging near the Pacific. Something big's coming." I asked the only question that mattered. "Another invasion?" He shook his head. "No, it's worse." We followed him into the command bunker, a low-lit room crammed with flickering monitors and desperate people. One of the analysts pulled up an image from a satellite that had gone dark seconds later. It wasn't a ship. It was a planetary structure, orbiting just beyond the moon, massive, circular, with thousands of glowing runes that pulsed like a heart. "The Vari call it the Sanctum," Rios said. "We've intercepted fragments of their transmissions. They're preparing something called the Purge of Resonance." Nova's expression didn't change. "They're going to reset the frequency of Earth, wipe out every mind that doesn't align with their control pattern, including yours." I asked. She looked at me. "Especially mine." The room went quiet. Then Rios slammed a fist on the table. "We're not letting them finish whatever that thing is. We'll hit it before it hits us." "How?" I asked. "We don't have ships." "We barely have clean water." Rios turned to Nova. "She's the how." Her lips twitched. "You want me to take us to space?" "No," he said. "I want you to break their goddamn rules." Nova stood slowly. "You don't understand, Commander. Every time I use this—" She pointed to her chest where faint light pulsed beneath her ribs. "It spreads. I'm not sure where the power ends and I begin anymore. The more I fight them, the less human I become." Rios didn't blink. "Good, because humans aren't winning this war. Something new has to." That silence after he said it hit deep. No one dared agree, but no one argued either. I caught Nova's gaze. "You don't owe us this," I said quietly. She smiled, faint and sad. "Maybe not, but I owe them something." She looked up at the sky through the cracked roof. "They made me from their fear. It's time they learn what fear feels like." That night, the Vari sky turned crimson. Their temples vibrated. All over the world, their soldiers began chanting in one synchronized voice. It wasn't an attack. It was a prayer. To her, to us. Somewhere in the static, I heard the translation of their chant. 4 words that chilled me to my bones. The gods have returned. By morning, the entire planet was vibrating, not metaphorically and literally. Glass trembled in windows. Oceans rippled without wind. Animals screamed and went silent. It was like the earth itself had caught a fever. Nova stood on a ridge overlooking the desert, her silhouette framed by a sky that looked bruised. The sun fought through thick violet clouds that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. I could feel it now, her connection to whatever the Vari had built out there in orbit. Rios joined her, jaw tight. "They're aligning the Sanctum. Every major Vari spire is channeling power into that thing." Nova didn't turn. "It's not a weapon. It's a ritual." That word hit different. Ritual. "They're calling to something," she added softly. "Something older than them." "Older than this galaxy," Rios swore under his breath. "And what, you can hear it?" "I can feel it," she said, "because it's inside me." That was the first time she said it aloud. And none of us knew how to respond. We weren't soldiers anymore. We were ants on a battlefield between gods. But humans don't bow to gods. We fight them. The resistance gathered in the bunker that night. Old generators buzzed, lights flickered, and every map on the table showed the same thing. Red zones, Vari control, spreading like veins. "There wasn't a safe place left on Earth. We can't win a war on the ground," Rios said. "We'll die crawling." "Then we stop crawling," I said before I even realized it. "If the Vari worship her, maybe it's time we use that." He looked at me, half smirking. "You thinking what I think you're thinking?" "Let's give them a god they can't control." Nova didn't smile, but her eyes brightened. "You'd use their faith against them." "Faith's what humans do best," I said. "We build it, break it, twist it. They wanted worship? Let's make them choke on it." So we did. That night, Nova walked into the open, no armor, no weapon, barefoot in the dust. We followed from a distance, cameras streaming to every hidden human screen still working. For the first time, humanity watched not a soldier or a rebel, but something else. A woman glowing with the power of an alien god, standing in defiance before the race that tried to enslave her. The Vari came in waves. Dozens at first, then hundreds, kneeling as they approached. Some of them were weeping, if you could call that liquid dripping from their blank eyes tears. They spoke in their own frequencies, low hums that made the sand vibrate, and Nova answered them not in English. Not in their language either. She spoke in pulse, tones, breaths, movements that made the air shimmer. Every Vari fell flat on their faces. Their resonance towers flickered, dimmed, and then turned toward her like sunflowers seeking light. Rios whispered, "Holy hell." But I wasn't sure this was holy. Nova's glow brightened until the sky looked like dawn. She spread her arms, and for the first time her voice echoed through every device, every dead frequency, every human ear. "You came to cleanse. You came to own, but you forgot who taught you what fear meant. We were your creation once. Now we are your gods. Every Vari around her screamed, and not in pain but in ecstasy. They tore their armor off, breaking their own bodies in half as they bowed deeper. Some burned into ash right there. That's when Rios grabbed my shoulder. She's not controlling them, he said. She's becoming them. And he was right. Her veins glowed bright silver. Her skin eager to shift. Tiny flickers of metallic light crawling under the surface. I stepped forward, panicked. Nova, you're losing yourself. She turned to me. For a heartbeat, she looked human again. No, she whispered. I'm remembering what I am. Then the sky split open. A beam of light, no data information made solid, shot down from orbit. It wrapped around Nova like a cocoon. The ground shook so violently I fell to my knees. The Vari chanted louder, rhythmic and desperate. Rios yelled, "She's sinking with the sanctum!" And before I could run to her, Nova looked down one last time and said, "Tell them the old gods have fallen, and the new one bleeds human." The light swallowed her whole. When it cleared, she was gone. The Vari scattered. Some turned to dust. Others fled, screaming into the skies like insects trying to escape a storm. But above us in orbit, the sanctum changed color, from Vari blue to human red, and every screen on Earth flickered with a single message, written in bloodlight, "Bow." The sanctum didn't orbit anymore as it loomed, like a second moon but darker, bleeding red light across every continent. It cast a constant shadow over the Earth, a reminder of what Nova had become. A warning or maybe a promise. Every Vari structure across the planet stopped transmitting. The towers, the spires, the resonance chambers, they didn't just go offline. They shifted, reconfiguring themselves, pointing not at the stars but down at us. And through it all, Nova was silent. No transmissions, no visions, no flickers of light or whispers in dreams, like some of us feared she'd send. Just silence. We didn't know if she was alive, dead or something in between, but the Vari did. The ones who hadn't fled now roamed the Earth barefoot, unarmed, muttering prayers in frequencies that made dogs bark and infants scream. We tried capturing them, questioning them. Some of them just collapsed into nothing when we touched them. Others whispered the same phrase over and over again until they starved to death. She is remaking the code. Whatever that meant, it scared the hell out of us. Rios called a meeting inside one of the old Vari observatories, a place they once used to monitor Earth's chaotic rhythms, whatever that meant. Now it was empty, gutted, buzzing only with faint alien electricity we hadn't figured out how to turn off. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. His scars looked deeper, his voice hoarser. The Vari Empire has collapsed. Across the galaxy. Not just here, we stared. What do you mean? I asked. They weren't the rulers, he said. They were carriers. Vessels for an ancient intelligence. A hive code that jumps between species, wipes them clean and rewrites them as tools. Nova, she didn't just resist it. She merged with it. And now the entire code answers to her. Silence. The implications sank in like ice water down our spines. She's not just powerful, one of the scientists whispered. She's everywhere. And then we got the first signal. It wasn't from Earth, it was from a deep space outpost on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. A tiny resistance research station that had gone dark 6 weeks ago. It flickered to life. Only one word came through, repeating over and over again in every language the station's AI knew, "Obey." And below that, a video feed, at first just static, then a silhouette, feminine, floating in what looked like zero gravity. Her skin shimmered like obsidian, marked with threads of crimson light. Her eyes opened, not white now, a pure red, glowing with the kind of intensity that made you feel like your own thoughts weren't private anymore, Nova. But this wasn't the girl I rescued. She looked like a god that had outlived its creators. Your species, she said, her voice deeper than before, was chosen because it refused obedience. You burned everything they built. You broke the silence of order with screams. I could barely breathe, she continued. Now the stars belong to you, and I will remake them in your image. Then she smiled, a slow, haunting smile, and added, let them fear the chaos they tried to erase. The feed cut. Some people cheered. Others fell to their knees and sobbed. A few ran, but me? I stood still, because I realized something that none of them were saying out loud. Nova wasn't coming back to us. She wasn't human anymore. She was a frequency, a signal, a presence echoing across the cosmos, rewriting planets, reprogramming stars, remaking life. Every burned across Earth began hearing her voice in their sleep. Not nightmares. Not threats, just one question, whispered gently. Are you ready to ascend? I didn't answer, because I didn't know if she meant evolve or surrender. The world had stopped pretending things were normal. Skies no longer held clouds. They shimmered with faint symbols, pulsing red and silver like veins across heaven. Rivers glowed faintly at night. The air tasted metallic. And in every city, people were hearing her voice, soft, calm, patient. Nova wasn't shouting anymore. She was inviting. At first, only the burned could hear her clearly. Then others began to, children, the sick, the dying, and all of them spoke the same phrase in their sleep. The code is mercy. That's when Rios called me into what was left of the command bunker. It looked more like a tomb now. Half the staff gone, equipment flickering, the hum of Vari tech breathing somewhere in the walls. He looked at me, eyes hollow. She's building something, he said. What? Not a weapon. A network. She's rewriting DNA. Through the air, through sound. The burned were just the beginning. She's infecting the rest of us with her signal. Making us compatible, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was too big to believe. You're saying she's turning us into what? Gods? Rios shook his head. No, followers. That word hit like a knife. Outside, the world had begun to change faster. Plants grew metallic veins. Animals developed glowing eyes. Cities hummed with strange resonance, every building vibrating at the same tone when Nova's voice whispered through the clouds. I could feel it too. My skin itched at night, like something was growing underneath. My heartbeat sometimes matched the sanctum's pulse. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, whispering in Vari tongue without knowing it. I wanted to fight it. I wanted to stay human. But the truth, every time I heard Nova's voice, the fear stopped. The pain, the hunger, the exhaustion, gone. Her words didn't just speak to my mind. They soothed it. Like she was erasing the part of me that ever doubted. And that's what scared me most. Rios knew it too. We can't stop her, he said quietly. But maybe we can reach her. He placed a device on the table, a black cube humming with low resonance. Vari tech, scavenged from the wreckage of their communication towers. This can project a direct neural link. If she's still part human, you can pull her back. I stared at him. Why me? Because she'll listen to you, he said. You were the first she saw, the first she trusted, and maybe the first she loved. That night I stood on the ridge again, the sanctum glowing like a wound in the sky. I held the cube tight, its hum syncing with my heartbeat. My thoughts blurred as I activated it. The light swallowed me, and then I wasn't in the desert anymore. I was standing in a place without ground or sky, just endless reflections of red light, rippling like water. In front of me floated Nova. Her shape was fluid, her hair drifting like smoke, her eyes twin eclipses. Mara, she said softly. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. You're destroying everything. No, she said, stepping closer. I'm freeing it. They made this universe too quiet, too orderly. I'm giving it back its noise. I'm giving us back our truth. This isn't truth, I whispered. It's control. You've become what they were. Her face shifted, sadness flickering for just a second. You don't understand. I am what they were, and what they feared to be. I reached for her hand. Then fight it. Remember who you are. She looked down at my hand but didn't take it. You want me to be human again? To cry, to break? Yes, I said, because that's what makes us real. For a moment everything went still. Then Nova closed her eyes, and the red world pulsed once, a heartbeat that shook everything apart. When she opened them again, tears, bright liquid silver, rolled down her cheeks. I remember, she whispered. But it's too late, Mara. The code is already inside you. And just like that, I woke up in the desert again, gasping. The cube was gone. My hands glowed faintly. In the distance, the sanctum began to descend. It wasn't just orbiting Earth anymore. It was landing, and I could still hear her voice, gentle and terrible, inside my skull. When the sanctum touches the Earth, there will be no gods. There will only be us. The sky broke open. The sanctum descended slowly, its ringed body larger than any moon had ever been, cutting through the atmosphere like a living eclipse. Cities fell silent beneath it. No wind, no sound, just awe, and the low hum of a god breathing. Every screen, every radio, every broken piece of technology flickered to life. There was no image, just her voice, calm, tender, everywhere. The age of division is over. The code is mercy. The noise is salvation. People stepped out of their homes, out of bunkers, out of hiding. Millions of them. Some fell to their knees, arms raised. Others wept. Some screamed. No one ran, because deep down we all felt it. A warmth crawling through our veins like someone rewriting the pain out of our blood. Our bodies tingled, bones humming faintly with her rhythm. I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt acceptance, and that terrified me more than anything. Rios's voice cracked through my headset, distorted but alive. "Quinn, you still there?" "Barely," I whispered. He coughed. "We've got one chance. The Sanctum's using the Vari resonance channels to transmit the code. If we can overload it even for a second, we might cut her link to the planet." "Overload it how?" "With you," he said simply. "Of course." It always came back to that. The burned were connected to her now, all of us. If I could push back, if I could feed her signal back into itself, maybe I could break the loop. Maybe I could give Earth one more breath as a human world, or I'd die trying. I ran toward the hills where the air shimmered red and silver like liquid glass. The Sanctum's shadow swallowed the ground, humming so deep it rattled my teeth. I could see the tendrils descending, streams of data, living light, connecting to towers, oceans, hearts. Nova was everywhere. Her voice echoed in my skull. "Why are you fighting this, Mara?" "I'm not your enemy," I screamed into the wind. "You're not saving us either." "You begged for peace. Not like this." I felt the signal inside me surge. My skin burned. My vision blurred red. I dropped to my knees and pressed my palms into the dirt. The ground pulsed. For a moment, I wasn't just hearing her. I was inside her. The network unfolded. Strings of light, webs of thought, billions of voices singing one perfect note, and beneath it all, silence. That's when I realized it. The code wasn't about harmony. It was about erasure, a clean, quiet universe. No more hate, no more pain, no more love, no more anything. She was killing chaos itself. I pushed back. Every ounce of rage, grief, confusion, every scream I'd ever held in, I threw it into the signal. My memories, my pain, my brother's laugh, the smell of gasoline, the sound of rain, and all of it. I poured humanity into the code like poison. The Sanctum screamed. Lightning split the sky in veins of red and white. The ground cracked open beneath me. Every Vari still alive fell to ash. The burned convulsed across the world, glowing like dying stars, and somewhere inside that storm, Nova's voice faltered. "Mara, what are you doing?" "Reminding you what it feels like to hurt," I gasped. "Stop, you'll destroy yourself, then I'll die human." For a moment, one terrible, beautiful moment, everything stopped. The Sanctum shattered like glass. Fragments of light scattered across the sky, falling like slow rain. The hum faded. The world exhaled. When I opened my eyes, the sky was blue again. Real blue. Rios found me hours later, half buried in dust. "You did it," he said quietly. "It's over." I looked up. "Is it?" Because the stars above weren't still. They flickered, pulsing faintly red. The pieces of the Sanctum hadn't vanished. They'd spread. Seeds scattered across the void. And faintly, so faintly I thought I imagined it, I heard her voice, softer than a breath. Noise always returns. I smiled, even as tears blurred my vision. "Good," I whispered. "Then so will we." The wind picked up again, carrying dust and laughter, and the sound of something alive. And for the first time since the invasion began, the world didn't kneel, it stood. End of story. Humanity didn't win by being perfect. It won by refusing to stop being loud. Would you like me to write an epilogue? A short postscript showing what happens to Mara and Earth years after the Sanctum's fall?